Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Now just recently I reviewed Elton John's first solo album, Empty Sky, which came out in 1969. Now we've got some unfinished business on that first, and that's to look at the 4 bonus tracks which appear on the CD version of that album. And they make some interesting listening. So the first one I'm going to look at is Lady Samantha, which was the second single that Elton issued. This has got quite a thrilling opening with a kind of mysterious start to it, a mysterious vocal, accompanied by some mysterious harmonies from Elton. So it creates an atmospheric start here. Bit of a Beatles feel to this one as well. Bernie's doing the lyrics on all 4 of these. The refrain is quite decent. This didn't chart, but was covered by a US band called Three Dog Night, and it became a hit. I think this is a pretty reasonable track, and it's a shame in a way that this one and one of the others that I'm going to mention weren't actually featured on the Empty Sky album itself, because I think it would have strengthened them up quite considerably. I'm desperately looking for the right card to show, because I'm going to give this one a fairly good 5 out of 10. Now the second bonus track was the B-side of Lady Samantha, and it's a song called All Across the Havens. It's kind of got a country rock feel almost, a bit of a dipping the toe into the Americana scene, which of course Elton's been so fascinated by throughout his life. There's almost a sort of a hillbilly feel to some of the guitar picking on this. The refrain is strong, and it's a kind of a feel of the song that's going to become more developed in the wonderful Tumbleweed Connection album, of course, which we all love. It seems to be about some sort of mystical meeting. Quite a lot of the lyrics at this time were quite difficult to understand in a way, quite sort of psychedelic in a way. So they're more sort of works of poetry which we can kind of interpret as we wish. The band sounds good on this. Piano perhaps not as prominent as it could be, but it's a reasonable one to listen to, and I'm going to rate this one as an average track for Elton and give it 4 out of 10. The third track as a bonus track is probably the best of the bunch, and it's Me That You Need. This was an A-side of a single as well. We see Elton using the orchestra really effectively on this. It's about someone trying to persuade a partner that you are the answer to their dreams. It's me that you actually need. The start reminds me a little bit of that old Shirley Bassey, Tom Jones song, I Who Have Nothing. I don't know whether you know that one at all. They just sort of remind me a little bit of that in the verse there. The refrain is really strong here, and there are signs that something special is happening, that we're about to witness a very special musical partnership between Bernie and Elton. It's starting to come together, and we can see and hear it on this particular track, I think, maybe more than a lot of the others on the Empty Sky album. The lyric may be a little bit repetitive, maybe. It's not quite perfect yet, but it's still pretty good. I'm going to rate it as a good track and give it 6. Now the B-side of It's Me That You Need is one I think probably for collectors only. It's called Just Like Strange Rain. This has got a very psychedelic feel to it. What exactly is Strange Rain? Well, we're not quite so sure, but you probably can form your own opinions by listening to Bernie's lyric and seeing how Elton interprets it. It's about some sort of weird experience. It's a little bit muddled, it's a little bit repetitive, there is a slight clue in this, in the refrain, a slight echo of Amarina from Tumbleweed Connection, which of course is a brilliant song. So maybe just some thoughts from this one recur and are developed a little bit better in Amarina. But this one is a really deep cut, I think, and I'm probably going to give it just a 2 there on that one as a below average track. Okay, now just looking at a few of your comments that you sent in after my initial review. Now, Daniel has written in that he always loves this album because it's so different. Elton's voice sounds great. There's a feeling of innocence about it that he lost in later years. And Daniel's favourite tracks are Empty Sky, one of his best rockers. I certainly would agree with that. That's a great opening. What a way to start your career on vinyl. Valhalla, Lady What's Tomorrow, and of course the sublime Skyline Pigeon. But Daniel also likes Hymn 2000. Now that's really interesting because several of you have written in saying you like that track. must admit, wasn't one of my favourites. I listened to it again today, and I'm thinking, well, it's okay, but not quite one of my favourites here. And Daniel also likes the rather obscure Scaffold. So it's a great album, isn't it, for real Elton John fanatics as we are, to pick these really rare tracks and to enjoy them. Interesting comment from Daniel saying that he prefers the harpsichord version of Skyline Pigeon. Now, if you've been following my videos, you'll know I gave the piano version of that a full 10 out of 10, one of my very rare 10 out of 10s. And I think the harpsichord version I gave a 9 or an 8 to. He actually thinks the piano version is too polished. Well, fair enough. Interesting view that. I'm not sure the harpsichord can sustain a whole track on its own. That's my only fears about that. And I like the passion and the feeling you can get with the piano, which you can't get with the harpsichord. But thanks for those comments. Now then, Super Mario has listened to the album and enjoyed it. Not the greatest thing Elton has ever done by far, but some good songs. Super Mario enjoys Gulliver, which of course is the dog who has died. It's that song about the loss of the pet, which quite a few have enjoyed. You enjoy. Of course, it is combined on it with 2 other tracks to make that final slot on the album. Now, GB says it's a lovely debut album from a young artist who's yet to find his path to success and his true self, but he's definitely on the way. And that's how I regard the album. It's not the finished item. It's just a signpost of what's to come. And we see these little flashes of brilliance, don't we? Either on a whole track like Skyline Pigeon or just parts of tracks where there's just little clues of what's to come. GB thinks Lady Samantha should have been included. Yes, why not put that on there and It's Me That You Need, both those tracks onto Empty Sky, and then got a pretty good, pretty well-rounded album. Skyline Pigeon is the high point, yes, but again, GB's favourite track has to be Gulliver. It's the dog song again. So many people have that, and maybe if you've lost a pet, perhaps that's one way of relating to this album. Now, Ellie reckons I'm not a huge fan of this album. Ha ha, says Ellie. Well, I like parts of it, but maybe just not quite as consistent as it could be. Ellie says it's not terrible. It could have been a lot worse. And there are several decent songs. Ellie likes Hymn 2000. Another vote for that one. And in fact, Ellie put this on her fantasy set list for Elton's closing retirement concerts, if you like. And I did notice that. I remember that being chosen by somebody, and I thought I couldn't even remember how that went, that song. I had to go back and listen to it. Eddie says, at this point in his career, 53 years later, it would be so wild to hear any of these crazier songs played in concert. Well, what about Elton launching into Empty Sky, your very last concert? Your very last concert, play your very first song. What about that? I know you watch these videos, Elton, so just a little suggestion for you there. Paul says that Skyline Pigeon is the diamond on the album. And he first heard the piano version when his dad bought the single, and he thinks it was a B-side to Daniel. That could be right. Can somebody correct us on that one? Maybe it was the piano version that was the B-side to Daniel. I'd rate it as one of my all-time favourite songs and one of Bernie's best really poetic lyrics. Yeah, I would agree with that particularly. It's one of those metaphors that just works, doesn't it? It works for the whole thing. It's a bit like, This Train Don't Stop Here. It's comparing something to something else, and it just carries through the song and seems to work. Now, Dirk, who's a regular contributor, thinks the album should rate a little bit more than me. Has gone through the songs. Western Ford Gateway gets a good mark, 5 or 6. Sales he likes, gets 7 out of 10. There's some comments there about Skyline Pigeon, which I have responded to separately. Gulliver is nice on its own, 5 out of 10. Yes, it's a pity it's joined to those other two. The Hey Jude one, I like that. It just doesn't seem to fit with Gulliver. And then you've got this really weird reprise thing going on, which I don't really want to talk about too much. But anyway, thanks for those comments, Dirk. Rob has sent in some little snippets of information about some of the tracks, and these are always useful and interesting to read. He says that Lady Samantha could have been included on the album instead of Hymn 2000. Well, some people wouldn't be very happy with that idea because they're big fans of that. but it was something to do with contractual arrangements at the time. Um, Rob thinks that Sales is trying to convey the image of a moment, just someone by the sea with their girlfriend, and a bit like sitting on the dock of the bay, which of course was an Otis Redding song, wasn't it? And Rob prefers the piano version of Skyline Pigeon as well. He doesn't like Elton's vocal on the harpsichord version. Interesting idea there. Another vote here for the song Gulliver, a beautiful story of a young boy losing his beloved pet. Probably the first such loss he's experienced in his life. So, a lot of people seem to enjoy that. Rob not too keen on it being paired up with Hey Jude and Reprise. And Steve adds a comment that he likes the album quite a bit, but is not a fan of the reprise segment at the end. Apparently Queen did something similar years later at the end of their album Jazz. But Steve does enjoy the Hey Jude part, which he thinks would stand on its own as a track. Yeah, I like that one. And it's almost a bit like some of the instrumentals on Blue Moves. Quite creative, quite jazzy, and certainly deserves more than just that little minute or two segment. Anyway, that's just a few of the comments. Many thanks for those people who've written in about Empty Sky. As I've said before, we've now finished the 30 solo studio albums, so they're all done. Future business is my next review, which is going to be The Union. So I'm going to be looking at Elton's popular collaboration there with Leon Russell. And after that, I'm going to be revisiting one of the albums which I've already reviewed, and I'm going to be re-reviewing it. This is as a result of some comments that have come in. I'm going to have another look at one, which maybe I was a little bit unfair to. Anyway, see if you can guess which one. Anyway, that's it for now. See you soon. Don't forget, we're still standing.